So if you can't tell, I am out here in Colorado. It's the Front Range near Larkspur. That is actually Pikes National Forest, about 4 or 5 miles away. You can't see it. And this is Dawson's Butte behind me. I think it's called the Dawson's Butte Ranch Open Space Trail. Anyway, I'm right here. It's a great place to hike and to come out and do videos. Not too far from my house. Well, a few years ago, I was going up near Mount Evans, and it's just west of Denver. And it's the big, huge mountain you can see if you ever fly into Denver or you visit here. And I hadn't been here in Colorado that long, and I wasn't used to the altitude yet. I mean, I'd been around 5,000–6,000 feet for a while, but on this particular hiking trip, I went up to about 12,000 feet. Well, I go out and I'm all by myself. I don't have a satellite communicator. I have my phone with me. And this is, I want to say, at least 5 miles in. I think it's longer than that. But I head up to the area around Bailey, Colorado, and I head back into the mountains. And it's not right on Mount Evans. It's probably 2 miles away from Mount Evans, and it's on a different hill or mountain close by. Well, I've been using AllTrails, and I found this really cool trail, and it had a beautiful river, creek, whatever by it. And so I'm going up there, beautiful day, awesome. And I get up there to the switchbacks, and then it starts getting away from the creek. And so I get up there, and then I start to break out above tree line. So tree line around Colorado area, depending, maybe it's around 11,500 feet. So I break above tree line, and I saw a few people, but they were on their way out. Now, this is one thing I've learned in Colorado since I've been hiking and living here, is that you want to go hiking earlier than later, because a lot of times in Colorado, storms will start kicking up around noon and later. And it happens really frequently. So especially if you're above tree line and there's no protection from the storms and lightning, you really should do it earlier in the day. Well, I broke out above the tree line, and I was heading up to the ridge, and that ridge is about 12,000 feet. Well, I was already getting pretty tired, but I was like, okay, there's some lakes up here. I want to go see them. So right about ridge line, there was a couple on their way down, waved at them, said hi. And then I hit the ridge line, and then I start heading down. Now the weather was still really good. I don't think there was any storms popping up, and at least nothing that concerned me. And so I'm heading down. So I get up around 12,000 feet, but then I start heading down, and I lose, I'm thinking maybe it's 500 foot in elevation. It's probably 200 foot. So I start heading down to these lakes. I think there was 2 lakes up there, and I hang out there and just enjoy the day. And I think I had some lunch or sandwich with me, maybe. But then I'm thinking, hey, the trail goes a little bit farther. And so I start heading into the northwest, and it's actually looking right at Mount Evans. But the trail's not real defined there, if there is one. But the map says there's a trail, or AllTrails said there is. And I get out there, and there's Mount Evans. Well, it was right about that time, or slightly before it. I think maybe I was at the lake. The weather starts to get a little worse. I see some things that look like thunderstorms possibly going to be able to develop. And I'm a private pilot, and I've taken weather classes, so I kind of have a feel for what clouds look like. From the lake up there, I had pushed on to where I could get a really good view of Mount Evans around the corner. It was maybe another half mile to the northwest. So I get there's Mount Evans, and I'm really tired at this point. And again, I have my cell phone, but there's no cell service, but I don't have a satellite communicator. So I have no way to communicate with anybody, and I am by myself. Well, the storms start to kick up. There's no thunder or lightning yet. So I start walking back, and I get to the lake, and by this time I am just wiped out. And the storms really start kicking up. And I start to feel really nauseous at this point. And maybe it's because I'm trying to get back out of there because I'm above tree line. What I realized after talking with my daughter, who has been in search and rescue, she knows a lot about altitude sickness. I was getting altitude sickness, and I was by myself. Now, altitude sickness can lead to death. All right, I don't know everything about it, but it's not anything you mess around with. You might feel like you're getting a little bit sick, you drink a little water, whatever, sit down, you'll be fine. Not necessarily. I've seen my father when we were in New Mexico years before, probably 7–8 years before, and we were up around the town of Red River, and he had gotten altitude sickness, so much so that we had to turn back, we had to camp down at the lake, and it took him a good 2 days before he stopped throwing up, and he was just in a horrible mood. I mean, not a bad mood, but just a really bad situation. So I'm up here all by myself and I'm trying to get out, and I think I'm realizing, I believe that I know there's altitude sickness kind of kicking in. And I'm so tired. I remember I have to go back uphill to get to the ridge line before I can head back down. So again, I'm at 12,000 feet. I'm all by myself. I have no way to communicate. There's a storm coming. I don't remember if there was lightning and thunder and all that yet, but it was really dark and ominous. I'm like, I got to get off this ridge or off this mountain. So no joke, I'm going about 20 to 50 feet and having to stop and rest because I'm about to throw up. But I know I need to get off this mountain. So I just keep pushing myself. Every 50 feet I'm stopping. I'm just doing everything I can to get off this mountain and not collapse in the process. So I get back up to 12,000 feet, and at this point now I can start heading back down. The storm's not developed in anything where there's lightning near me yet, and in fact it never did. It looked like it, but it didn't, so I know I spoiled the story. But yeah, there's lightning coming down all around me. I almost died and 5 other people got hit. No, that's not what happened. So because I'm heading downhill at this point, I don't have all the anxiety with the storm anymore, and I've got a little bit of energy, but I've got at least, I think, 7 miles to get back out to my truck. And when you've been on a hike like that and you're not used to it, that 7 miles is a long ways. So the short story is, it ended up being still a beautiful day at the end. I got back to my truck, and thank goodness, like, oh, that truck. It's so nice to see your vehicle when you get off of a long hike. You're like, oh, beautiful truck, all right. I'm safe, I can relax. And not so much, it's not about being safe, it's about getting the weight off your feet and you're sore and maybe you got blisters or you've had altitude sickness and maybe you still have some. And that truck is just a great sight to see. So some of you might be going, well, that's not a big story. I mean, you could have died. Something happened. You should have had a helicopter airlift somebody out. Well, no. But it was a difficult situation for me, and I could have ended up in trouble. And I didn't have a satellite communicator, and now I do. I have several of them, and I test them, as you guys know. Many of you do know. So when I go out hiking or backpacking or camping now, I always have a satellite communicator. I always have a satellite communicator with me, even if I'm in cell service, because especially here in Colorado, you might drive around a mountain, and all of a sudden you don't have cell service, and you did before. Hey, there's a hummingbird. Oh, whoa, 2 of them. So another story here in Colorado of me not being prepared, but learning things, and now I'm showing, telling, and letting all of you know to be prepared wherever you go. I always take a first aid kit. I've got a snake bite kit. I've got water. I've got my satellite communicator, my phone, and I've got other things, but I've always got that with me in my day pack. So go enjoy the outdoors, but be prepared. And I'll see you back out here in Colorado in the next video.